Okay, hello again, art appreciation students. Today, this little video is just going to be talking about the writing assignment. So below this in Blackboard, below this video should be linked, there should be a rubric, which is probably going to be the most helpful thing for you guys, um, other than this video, for what you need to do basically to get an A on this assignment. And then also there's written instructions just so everything can kind of be clearly spelled out for you there. And then there's also a link to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So that brings us to kind of how I'm just going to break down all this information, is basically in just like 5 kind of quickish steps of what you're going to do. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to select a work of art to write your essay about, this writing assignment about, from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Your selection must come from the Met. You cannot say like, well, my sister painted this painting and I think it's beautiful, so I'm going to write my essay about it. It has to come from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This is a wonderful museum. We are so lucky to have such an elite museum in the United States with such a diverse artworks that you can find within the Met, which is one of the reasons why I selected this museum for you to select from. So let's get into what you're going to do. So basically, you're going to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art's website, right, which is listed there. There's a link below. You can Google it. You can definitely get there. I have confidence in you guys. And then once you get there, you're going to search around. There's many of these ways in which the Met breaks artwork down, other by culture, by theme, by like a master artist. I think there's one of like the Dutch painters exhibition that's going on there right now. There's all these kind of wonderful ways in which they break down. So don't be afraid to look at those, but also don't be afraid to search for something if you have a very specific interest. So let's keep going with this selection process. Step 1. What you're going to do is you're going to select a work of art and then you're going to do a formal analysis. Do you remember back in chapter 3, we talked about formal analysis and then we talked about all those historical and biographical analysis and all those other kinds of ways in which art historians and art appreciators look at art and kind of digest it. So formal analysis was that top one, it's the first, and it's a very restrictive kind of way. All that you're going to talk about are these principles and elements of design. So as you're searching, you might want to bring this list up and try to be like, where is the light? Where is the texture? Is there color? Is there movement? Is there unity or variety? All those kinds of things. So there's a little asterisk by color. You are required to talk about color. If you happen to be colorblind or have an issue with that for any reason, contact me and we will work something out and make sure that you get an artwork that's good for you. So no worries on that front. Don't hesitate to email me. All right, so when you're selecting a work of art, there's a couple things I want you guys to kind of pay attention to and to think about. Remember, you're required to discuss color. So sometimes there are artworks that are really old on the website and they have very old, they're archival is the term, archival images, and they don't have color to them. So don't select one of those just knowing that it has color. You want to make sure you select an image that has a good color base. Also, don't pick something that you've seen in the book and or is almost exactly identical to what's in the book, and or that you've seen in these PowerPoints that you've seen me talk about. So here's just some considerations. Sometimes in the past, students have done the Met used to have a big collection, and or does have a very big collection, but used to have this kind of advertised that they had this grand display of guitars, and students would try to do the formal analysis on musical instruments or tools or firearms or weapons of some kind. The problem that you're going to run into if you decide to select that is how are you going to be able to separate the artistic choices from the utility, right? If you're talking about a guitar and you could talk about how there's all those 6 parallel lines that run the entire length of the object, it's like, yeah, those are there and they are a visual element to it, but they're part of the function of the object. So it's hard to tease that apart. Another reason I kind of did this little screenshot of this is one of those archival images that's very black. Those objects don't look like that. That's just a black and white image of them. So again, try to stay away from utilitarian objects. I have a special place in my heart for ceramics and for utilitarian pottery, so it hurts me to say don't do that, but honestly, try to select something that's got a lot of content to it. On that note, there are non-objective artworks, these kind of very modernist artworks. This is the artist Mark Rothko. We will get to him kind of at the end of this semester. He's a non-objective artist. It's not that these artworks are not beautiful. It's not that you can't talk about them. They obviously have color in them, but it's that they're so minimal that it's going to, you have to pick 5, you have to talk about at least 5 of the principles and elements of design. It's going to be really difficult after you talk about color and shape and a little bit of value. You're gonna get, it's gonna be more difficult for you. And the last thing I want to do is make this assignment more difficult. So you can, I'm not saying that you can't select these objects, but just know that it's going to be more difficult for you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about step 2. So you have selected your artwork, and for the purpose of this little kind of demonstration, I've selected the Unicorn Rests in a Garden, which is a medieval Gothic tapestry, right? So this is not a clickable thing. Just another full disclosure, I tried to do this first in Zoom so that way we would like see the website together, and it did not work out like I wanted it to. So that's why there are all these screenshots in there. It was just bad. Anyway, moving on. So you see there's a lot of information here that the Met is providing for you. It's providing you dates. You have a read more here, right? So this is going to give you a lot of information about whatever artwork you select and give you some of that contextual analysis, right? Which is kind of the overarching thing that when you're going in art history and in art appreciation and you're trying to understand an artwork, that's kind of the ultimate level, is that contextual analysis. Right? So you're going to want to look at all that information, right? So as I just said, we talked about the formal analysis, which is those principles and elements of design, which is what the bulk of this essay is going to be about, right? You have to talk about 5 of them. But I want you to do just a little bit more research, just kind of in the Metropolitan Museum of Art website and whatnot. We're going to talk more about how much information that website provides to you in just a moment. And then you might have to go somewhere else. But I want you to have kind of just like a sentence or a paragraph from one of these other things, just trying to put this artwork a little bit into either its historical context or the identity of the artist and kind of this identity as a context or biographical context or something like that. Give us a little bit more, just one small paragraph. So remember, the meat and potatoes of the essay is the formal analysis, and then I just want you to touch on this other stuff, right? So there's lots and lots of information for you to gather from the Met that could provide you a lead for maybe your other contextual analysis or historical analysis or whatever direction you're going in. So again, in your essay, in the sort of formal qualities of the essay, like what you need to include in there, I want you to make sure that you include, when you turn it in, an image of the artwork, and then all of this kind of stuff, which you see that is provided for you all the time in these little videos and in your book, right? There's always the artist or the culture of origin, and then sort of the date and medium and all that kind of stuff. I want you to provide all that. And if you look just below where we are right here, it's all right there for you, plus more information. So once you've selected, go ahead and kind of drop all that into a Word document is basically what I would do. All right, as you go even farther down, the Met will put related objects. So let's say you've selected something that's from like a really specific culture or a place or something. It'll show you other artworks or maybe other artworks that deal with the same theme or artists that are working in the same medium, right? They're related objects. This artwork, this tapestry of the unicorn in the garden, happens to be part of this larger series of artworks of these tapestries from this Gothic castle. And I always knew that there was some kind of storyline to this, but I didn't know what it was. So this was kind of my little like, what is my research? Where am I going? I want to know more about this artwork as a whole. So I then went to Wikipedia. Now, full clarity, Wikipedia is not commonly a credible source for academia, right? That usually a professor or a teacher is never going to accept Wikipedia, with the exception that this is supposed to be one small little paragraph, right? So remember that the bulk of the information that I want from this essay is coming from the Met, which is an incredibly credible source. And then most of it is your interpretation of how the artist is using the principles and elements of design, right? So if I'm talking about this tapestry, I can talk about the green color and the contrast of the dark background to sort of the light fencing and horse or unicorn and whatnot. All that is coming from me, coming internally, and that's what the bulk of this essay is from. But let's say that your artwork that you selected has something to do with the end of the Prussian War, and you're thinking to yourself, I don't know anything about the Prussian War. You could potentially go to Wikipedia and just gain a little bit of information about the Prussian War and when it ended. So that could help you fill in those gaps for that contextual analysis or biographical or historical analysis that you're kind of trying to put together. So whenever you go to any other website, like let's say you do go to Wikipedia, or even better, the Met links you to another credible educational academic website. The Met also has essays on there. There's an incredible amount of information. So as you go and pull from another resource, make sure that you're compiling those resources, because that's going to bring us to the next step. So the next step is align your thoughts and write your paper, but don't forget about all those places that you just were to gain that information. So for me, in this little example, I've been to the Met, and then I've also been to Wikipedia just ever so briefly. But I want to make sure I give both those places credit. So you're discussing your formal analysis, right, which is the principles and elements of design. I request that you underline them the first time you mention them, just so that way when I'm reading your essay, I can kind of easily pick out and make sure that you have 5 and make sure that you get full credit for that. So that's sort of like you helping me to help yourself. Right? And then the next thing, which is only going to be one small short paragraph, this is not the bulk of the essay, is you kind of starting to put this artwork into another type of analysis, right? Another type of context, right? Talking about the iconography of the characters in the image, or the historical event that it was associated with, et cetera, et cetera. So you're writing your essay at this moment. Right? Just so you know, again, below this video, there is this table, which is the rubric for this assignment. This is directly what I will use to grade your paper. So I would give that a download, give that a look-see. You can definitely see where the bulk of the points are coming from, which is that formal analysis, right? Discussing all 5 of those principles and elements of design and how they're used in the artwork. All right, and then everything else is there also. Little housekeeping things like must be selected from the Met, that kind of stuff. All right. Step number 4 is giving citation or giving credit to those sources. Having a rough time right there. Giving credit to those sources, to all those places that you just were and just gained all of this information from, right? So the Met is definitely going to be one of your sources. And in fact, it has to be one of your sources because you have to select your artwork from there. The other one is anywhere else that you would have been gaining information about that. So if you Googled the artist and went to their website, if you Googled, like I said, the Prussian War and went to there, if you found out that this artwork exists in a very specific place geographically and you have no idea where it is and you Google it just for reference, don't hesitate to keep those sources. You can definitely have more than 2, but 2 is the minimum. This website here, which is the Owl Purdue website, which I will also link, I haven't done it yet, but I will also link that down there, is the best resource that I have ever found for all of your writing needs, right? How to do a proper citation in Chicago Tribune style, right? If you happen to be studying science, you're probably more familiar with AP style citations, right? Art history, business, all those kinds of things, we use Chicago Tribune style. So I want you to, even though you may be familiar with AP style, use the style that's for this class, right? All that information can be found on that OWL website. It's an incredible website, really got me through college. So definitely utilize that. All right, step 5, right, which is the last step, is the presentation, right? And this is just a discussion post. So every week we've been having these discussion posts about your thoughts on different things and ideas and your responses to different artworks. So this time I want you to post the artwork that you selected and then give that descriptive information that is always incredibly important, right? The artist, the title, the date, they're all should be existing in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So that should be their location. All that information should be in there. And then give us just several sentences about the context that you were interested in while you were discovering and doing that little bit of research. Please don't copy and paste your whole essay into the discussion. Right, we just want to know that contextual analysis. We just want to know that the artist made this artwork when they were experiencing something specific in their life that had to do with their identity and history, whatever the case may be that you found that was interesting, more than likely your peers and I will also find it interesting. So post just a little tidbit, several sentences of interesting information about the artwork. So just to be clear, right? We're just wrapping up here, right? The paper is going to be 500 or so words, a little bit on the heavier side, probably be better. Your artwork is selected from the Met. The bulk of the essay, sorry, is going to be the formal analysis, discussing those principles and elements of design, right? Then you're going to do a slight amount of research into something else that's interesting about the artwork that will help you put it into that other type of context, right? Whether it's iconography, which was part of the sacred realm, however you want to go about it, right? Whichever direction you find most interesting. That's what I'm kind of getting at with that. And then you're going to properly cite all your sources. And then you're going to have the discussion post, which is going to have the image, that descriptive information, something that you found interesting, right? So that thing that you find interesting can also be that it's made out of like a really rare material and the people who created the culture that created it probably had to send away for that material because it's not found in that location of the world or something. That's still interesting information. So that is it. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to email me. Again, below this, there'll be the the portal to drop your thing and all that kind of stuff. So thank you, thank you.